Hello everybody, this is EyesDraws, and today's video is going to be showing my drawing process inside the game Rec Room. Now, Rec Room is a very limited game, at least art-wise. Art-wise, they have very limited art supplies and what you can work with. They really only have three canvases. The one that I'm using is the square art canvas, and then they have magic markers, paintbrushes, and some erasers. I personally only like using the magic markers and the erasers. I leave out the paintbrushes. I don't see a point in using them, especially with them not having a magic paintbrush. I find it easier rather than recoloring them with a maker pen every single time I want to use a color. I just would rather use my magic marker and then scale up my canvas or scale down my canvas. Now, as for this drawing, I kept it pretty simple. I just wanted to draw a female. But to challenge myself, I wanted to add some crazy colors and try to perfect kind of my colors and the transitions of colors and blending them, especially in such a limited game like Rec Room. It's very difficult to do that. Some people have it quite easily, but I feel like I could use some work on that because most of the time I leave a lot of textures in my art. I still did that because I wanted to stay true to myself with my textured work, but I still wanted to kind of show a semi blend with this art piece. Now, again, I wanted to push the colors, so I decided I'm going to put this girl in sunset, so I'm going to have very harsh lighting. So I'm going to have her face be in basically red, orangey, yellow tones on one side and very blue, turquoise, and purple tones on the other side. And you'll see in a bit whenever I get to the putting down the base colors for the back, for the background, you'll kind of see like, oh, okay, I understand where you're going with this. But again, right now I am literally just putting down the base colors. I am not trying to do all that blending right then and there. I find it easier to do base colors and then go on top of it and put kind of the blending part and or the um, like actual details, which is the art techniques, which is like stippling or hatching, cross hatching, those types of things on top of the base colors, and then it can look a little more blended that way. And that's what I did. So moving down below, I'm adding a lot of the same colors that I am on the face, so the oranges and the reds and the yellows and the blues and the purples, but I'm kind of darkening those colors because it is going to be on the shoulders and the neck, and that's going to be kind of in a shadow, but it's still going to have a lot of the same colors. So I'm going to try and keep that in mind as I'm coloring this and adding these base colors. And then adding, the blues onto the right side. That's not going to have as much colors into this piece. And then I do the hand, and again, it's going to be from yellows, oranges to pinkies to reds to blues and purples. So it's very much the same thing as I did with the face and the neck. Those colors are staying the same with each other and keeping them all cohesive. And then I add in a little bit of her shirt down at the bottom, and it's kind of just an assortment of colors. So it's yellows, whites, purples, and some blue colors. And then I do the base of the hair. And I wanted the hair to be nice and dark, but I wanted it to have a blue tint to it. So I just kind of filled in as much as I could with the colors of the hair and then adding a couple of the strands. And then I added a little bit of a lighter blue color on top just to show a little bit of the where I wanted the highlights to be. And then I went on to the background. And the background, again, is following the same kind of gradient. So it's from oranges, yellows, and pinks to purples and blues and that type of thing. And I do try to blend it a little bit, but not really. I'm just simply adding my base colors of what I think this gradient should look like. And again, here you'll see I kind of started on with the purple, and then I was like, wow, this is a lot of space. So I grabbed my maker pen and I shrink my canvas. And now you'll see that my marker tip is actually thicker, and that's because I scaled up my canvas. So now I have kind of a bigger tip of the marker to work with. And this is very helpful. I do this all the time with a lot of my pieces. I don't really tend to grab my paintbrushes. I don't really use them. I've used them like here and there a couple times if I really needed to, but I really don't grab them. I find it easier to just scale the canvas down rather than grabbing a paintbrush, especially if I'm doing something as detailed as this. I find it just easier to do. So this is where I'm gonna be starting doing my major blending and things like that. And I ended up scaling my board here because I want really fine lines for this, just so I can get as much blending and as much detail as I can within this piece. Now, again, Rec Room, it's a very limited game, especially with art supplies. So you kind of have to make do with what you can, which is like scaling and, trying to make our um, marker tips be smaller or bigger. It would be nice that they would add that or even just add pressure sensitivity. That would be really nice. Um, I used to have work on my phone and do a lot of these pieces on there because I had pressure sensitivity. But then I think in one of the updates, Rec Room kind of took that away, which is very unfortunate. I love pressure sensitivity. It's very helpful to artists. It just makes drawing a little bit easier. And then we can add like more like expressive lines, I think. Um, but it's completely fine. I work around it when I can. But if you are a Apple user or an iPad user, you actually do have pressure sensitivity, which lucky you guys. It's completely fine. But hopefully they kind of add that in the future. It'd be very helpful. Um, but we'll just have to see where Rec Room goes with that. But again, here you'll kind of see me struggle with blending this pink and then this purple colors. I ended up finding the best way to do this is to move my value on my marker very, very like small or little like, just because it's not very like blendable, I guess. And then I also did kind of a bit of a hatching motion to kind of blend it together and kind of just kept doing that back and forth, going up and down. And then I'm moving into the blue tones, which is very nice. This part I kind of semi struggled with, but not really. Um, I just, again, moved my values and moved my marker in a hatching motion to kind of blend it all down. And then here you kind of see where I get into kind of the lighter blue on the other side. Um, which I think looks nice. And that's where I kind of zoomed out and kind of looked at it for a second. And then I move on to a bit of the mountains back here. I wanted to add in some blues, a little more blue on the other side. And I did this with the markers. Um, I just added a couple slightly shaded mountains, and then I would add some darker ones and trying to keep that like kind of mountain rangey look, but keeping it very simplified and not too difficult. Um, but yeah, once I get done with that, I move on to the grass, and I knew I wanted to keep this as kind of a field of flowers. So I wanted to kind of mimic a field type look, and so I kept this one very scribbly or looped motions rather than hatching or stippling right now because it's going to be underneath it. And then once I get that part done, I kind of go a little bit deeper and then I kind of do a squiggly slash stippling motion on top of it to show like the tops of the actual field. Um, and again, I think this was the best way I could have done it. There's probably another technique that would work better, but this is what I decided to come up with and do. And then I wanted to add to show a little bit of the actual grass. And so I tried to show that by making some lines. And then I decided to deepen the grass at the back, doing a really deep color. And then I wanted to add the flowers. And this part, I wanted some pink flowers. Again, I wanted to keep it vibrant. And so I did that. And then I added some like pink dots to kind of represent smaller flowers and leading back to the farther parts of that field. And then I added some light parts and then I added some dark pinks to kind of represent it. And again, I just kind of dotted it around using a stippling method because I found that best for this. Um, I don't know. I think it was just like the easiest way I could have done it, like especially in this game, and not keep it like too crazy. But yeah, once I got this part done, I did end up adding some lighter pinks and then I added some yellow dots in the middle of these flowers because I thought that would make it look a little nicer. And then once I got that done, I went back into the face, and this is where you'll see I struggle so much. So, as I said earlier, I struggled a lot with the blue side of the face. I'm happy with the result. I think it turned out great. But when I was doing this, I was like, I literally don't know what I'm doing. I was really just trying to um, blend things and really try to blend my purples into my blues and into that, like, again, I wanted it to have that skin tone type of look to it, but also still have the blue on that side. So I really didn't know what I was doing. And you kind of see I've basically covered up the entirety of that face over there. And then I started adding some stippling texture. I was like, ooh, this is nice. This is fun. I like this. So I kind of did a stippling thing all throughout. And again, this is the brightest highlight point, so I'm kind of trying to add those everywhere where I think it would go. And then if I mess up somewhere, I can just go over it. Um, but yeah, I continue adding different shadows where I think things are supposed to kind of go. And then I started doing a little bit of a hatching motions within the stippling, and I thought that looked fine. And then I started going with that skin tone color and adding that a little bit into the blue and then doing the um, top part of her forehead. And then I move on to the yellow and orange side of her face. And this side was a lot easier with than the blue side. I'm not entirely sure why. That might just be like, I don't know if it was easier for me or what. I didn't have as much trouble with that side. And here I'm kind of going throughout the arm and going back down to the neck and kind of just like making some scribbles, kind of blending what I could out, and then kind of moving throughout there, and then moving back up to the hand. So I kind of go back and forth between those. And then I move on to the tiniest little section of her outfit, and then I go back into the eyes and I start adding some eyelashes and adding, some like further details on this eye here. Um, with this eye, I was low-key kind of worried that I was messing up because normally I don't zoom out too much whenever I do the eyes, and I was like, wait, I haven't actually checked if this looks fine. And so you'll see me sometimes move back a little bit. And then I started doing her just a little bit of deeper shadows on her, and then starting the hair, which is very fun. But yeah. And then I move my maker pen or my canvas a little bit more, and then I start in with the eyes again. I kind of move all over the place during this because sometimes I'll see something and I'm like, ooh, actually, I should put this here. But yeah, here I'm putting in her eyes and trying to deepen her eyes a little bit more, and add like some darkness to them. And then I added some white bits on her, and then I started highlighting some places with the white, that wasn't just her eyes, just because I thought that would make the skin pop just a little bit more. And I really like how I did it on her lips. I think that looked very pretty. And then I did some on her arm here and her hand, just kind of adding a little bit to her. And then I zoomed out and I was like, dang, this looks cool. I was getting like kind of hyped with this, and I was like, okay, let's get this hair done. Um, yeah, and the hair, kind of a messy hair look. I wanted a lot of lines. I wanted to add just kind of a lot of hair, but not really at the same time. I just wanted it to kind of look like she kind of moved her hair around and it's a little bit messy. And so it's kind of coming down and around on her, and made a couple lines there. And then I decided to have a couple hair kind of covering the top and coming down, from her hand as well, maybe even wrapping around her hand a little bit and around her head up at the top as well. Again, I just wanted to try and do anything that I thought was kind of cool or messy and, stuff like that. And then as I was drawing this, I realized like I am not connecting a lot of these hairlines, so I was like stressing, but I was like, you know what? It's fine. I don't really care. It's okay. I'm doing my best. And then I started doing some lighter blue colors to kind of give some of the hair a highlight tone to them, and then I move on to the very light colors of this. But yeah, this piece was pretty fun. Again, I wanted to kind of push myself, challenge myself with these colors and kind of make it, the best that I can, that I possibly could. And I had fun with it. Like, really, it was just like a fun little piece. Um, but yeah, just adding some of that hair texture in here. Um, Trying to add, maybe some more like wispies around, and, adding different types of things. And then here, I decided I needed to write my name. I almost forgot whenever I was about to publish this. That's why there was a bit of a time skip, but I wrote my name, so we got this. And then you see here I'm updating my invention of this and calling it Sunset Dreams. Um, I just didn't know what to really draw it, so I called it Sunset Girl at first, is what I was thinking. I was like, no, that's stupid. Let's just call it that. And so, yeah, that's the final piece. Um, I think I ended up, yeah, I configured it and then I uploaded it to Rec Room. And I was like, okay, let's publish this puppy. And then I put hashtag sunset and I think hashtag girl. Yeah, I'm very basic. 250 tokens if you want to buy it. Um, but yeah, and then I decided I was like, you know what? This is a cool piece. I haven't drawn anything in a while. Let me make this my profile picture. Um, and then I messed up like taking the picture a few times and then I made it that. But yeah, that's the finished piece. So I hope you like this.